Star Trek Next Generation. Turn it on. Check it out. See if we get any error messages. No error messages, no test reports. The game thinks all the switches are working. But if you notice, it keeps on cycling a ball from here back to here. Lowers the drop target. You can hear it roll back down to here, and it's just an endless cycle.
The final frontier.
It's just going to keep doing this over and over.
The Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds.
There it comes again.
To seek out new life and new civilizations.
Okay, so that's the crux of the problem. It just keeps cycling the ball from the shooter up around there, back, and through this guy, and back down. I have it in solenoid test. I'm doing the board kicker now, and you can hear the board kicker fire. Now I'm going to scroll down to the diverters. Now I have to hold the power switch in so that the coils will have coil power, but you can hear that the under diverter top is not working, and the under diverter bottom is not working. The drop up, not working, and the drop down is not working. So that probably means we have a blown fuse. I wish it was that simple, but usually fuses blow for a reason. If we go back here, I'm betting that one of these fuses on the driver board is going to be blown. That's why like the drop down doesn't work. So I have all the fuses up and out of their fuse holder, and just using my meter, my multimeter set to continuity, which would be a buzz tone. If I put these two leads together, I get a buzz tone. I can tell that this middle fuse is blown. So we pull that out, push these other ones back in, and then for testing purposes, I'm going to use my circuit breaker fuse, so I don't have to keep putting in fuses. Okay, now I've still got it in the drop target down. I push in the interlock switch for the power, and I can hear the drop target down now work. Or if I go drop target up, I can hear that work. But I got a feeling that one of these diverters, if I hold the power switch on this, is going to blow that circuit breaker. And let's watch it. Under diverter bottom. But here's the one. Here's the one that I know is going to be the problem. Look at that. Did you see that? The whole game dimmed, and it blew my circuit breaker. So we know that the under diverter top has a problem. Now I've got the playfield lifted. These are my two under diverters. You can see this one works. I mean, I get the game off. I can manually push it in. But this one, I cannot manually push in. And the reason you can't is, I don't know if you can tell, but you can see a burn mark on the coil. So this coil seized. Now, the reason this happened, we're going to have to talk about in a second, but the first thing I'm going to do, before I can do anything else, is replace this coil, because again, it needs to work like this. The plunger needs to go in. This one clearly isn't, so my first step is to replace the coil. So diverter coil is melted. Look, you can see the stuff inside. See me run my finger past the light? You can see all the melted plastic inside the coil. So this thing was indeed wasted. The new coil installed. Now you can see that the plunger works. Interesting, you have to mount the coil, quote, upside down. That is like this. If you mount it like this, the bracket, the coil bracket right here, will short the two lugs, and you'll blow fuses and probably wreck driver transistors. Now here's the interesting thing. With the coin door shut, if I turn it on and this coil goes on immediately, locks on, we've got another problem, and I can almost guarantee you we're going to have this problem. But just for fun, we'll turn it on and see what that coil does. So here we go. Let's power it on. Sure enough, you can see just upon the quick power on, I only had it on for a second, this thing pulled on immediately. It shouldn't do that. That means that its driver board transistor is shorted. That's the next thing we have to fix. But we have to talk about why that happens. Something I haven't really covered in depth, but we really should. the first thing you're going to know is go down to, this is the drop target coil down here. This is for the single drop target that's at the back of the playfield. You'll notice that there's two big thick purple power wires, but there's also a thin purple power wire here. This thin purple power wire is called the tieback voltage. We'll talk about that some more, but this has to be connected to these other two purple wires. If this becomes disconnected, it for sure will blow up the driver transistors that control these two coils. So you have to check this wire and make sure it's connected here. It is, which is good. So now we have to go back up into the back box and talk and see about the driver transistor for our lockdown coil. Up to the back box, they ran out of driver transistors on the main power driver board. So on Star Trek and Twilight Zone and I don't know, maybe Indiana Jones and maybe one other game, Demo Man, they use this little 8 auxiliary driver board. Now on all those other games, except for this one, this thing only controls flashers. This is the one game that this board controls coils. And in order to control coils, they have this tieback voltage that we talked about that connects to that drop target. That's this little connector right here. This connector better be good. This wire better be connected to this IDC connector. If you're really a gambler or not a gambler, you should probably put this replace this connector with a crimp style with trifurcon pins, but that's where that purple tieback voltage comes up here. It is very important. If this voltage goes out, it'll lock on those under diverters. But 10 to 1, I think it's this transistor up here that's going to be bad, that's going to be shorted, that controls those diverters. So if I pull this board out, I can test those transistors, but for sure I'm going to have to replace one of them. That's our shorted transistor that's causing that coil to lock on when I power on the game. So testing the transistors, black lead, meter set to diode function, black lead on the center lug, which is the ground of the tip 102, and then on the outside, look, I got a dead short. It should be like this side, should get 0.4 to 0.6. That side is good, but this side is a dead short, which means that this tip 102 transistor is dead. Transistor replaced, pin re-crimped with a trifurcon crimp style, power on. I don't hear the diverter lock on, good sign. Now the game will cycle a couple balls through because it has to put a ball on the right side, which is what it couldn't do before. It was trying like all hell to divert a ball to the right and left. So what it's going to do is it's going to have 3 balls in the trough and 3 balls here. So it'll have 2 over here and I believe 1 over here. Now you can tell the ball isn't continually kicking balls from the diverter down
the final
and
frontier.
back going through. Let's play a game.
Welcome to the Enterprise.
I always like to test it with the launch probes because the launch probe option stress tests both diverters to the max. So like another good way to test it is to put it into battle simulation so we can get start mission, asteroid threat. I think the pop bumpers, yeah, they change it. Let me see if I can get battle simulation. Okay, now we put it into the hole there, and now we'll go to battle simulation, and it'll test both sides pretty well. Okay, now it's going to go to the left side. Missed that one, put it up there. See, it's testing it pretty well. Put that up there. Go up to this side, and we can see that the diverters are